There is a national crisis, a global crisis, a disconnect. It affects nearly everything: the air, the water, the land, our health, our future. It assures suffering and certain death for billions of individuals every year who are silenced, confined, hidden from view. It's happening right now, and it all begins and ends on our plates. Since 1986, Farm Sanctuary has pioneered social change, ecological sustainability, and political solutions. They have been cracking the bedrock of indifference and mobilizing citizens through rescue and the largest shelter network for farm animals in North America. Education that inspires and awakens empathy, and advocacy that exposes cruelty and stops injustice.
For every animal at Farm Sanctuary, there are literally billions of other animals who are still suffering in factory farms. And while disasters or other circumstances brought a lucky few to our sanctuary, it's important to remember the billions of others who never get there and who continue suffering every day, whose lives matter. Each of the animals at Farm Sanctuary is an ambassador, and their stories raise awareness about a system that is out of control, that is abusive, that is harmful. Farm Sanctuary has been at the front lines since 1986, challenging the factory farming system and encouraging citizens to recognize that food choices have profound impacts. So we started actually visiting farms and stockyards to document what was happening. And during one of our visits, we were walking around the back and came upon the dead pile. The maggots were so thick you could hear them buzzing, and off of this dead pile, a lamb lifts her head. We took her off the dead pile, thinking she would probably have to be euthanized. But we brought her to the veterinarian, and as he started examining her, she started perking up, and then she stood up, and she lived with us for more than 10 years. And that was Hilda, and she was our founding animal. What happens to animals on factory farms is horrendous, intolerable, unacceptable, and usually hidden from public view. But there have been times when disasters have literally torn the roof off of these factory farms and animals have been released. Many have suffered and died in these disasters, but we've been able to rescue some as well. When Katrina hit and the chicken buildings were destroyed, there were millions of chickens that were just strewn about. And so the industry dug these mass graves and was just bulldozing them into these graves and just burying them alive in some cases. So Farm Sanctuary sent a team down there, and we were able to rescue some of those individuals out of those mass graves and to bring them to Farm Sanctuary. In Iowa, there are millions of pigs that are raised on factory farms, and when the floods hit there, the water rose in these barns, and in some cases the animals were not released, and they literally drowned in their cages. Some, however, did get out. And one of those was a pig named Nikki. As the waters rose and the floods spread across the area, she was able to find high ground on a levee, and she gave birth, and she raised her young, and she cared for her young, and she defended and protected her young. And that really is a stark contrast to how the industry sees these animals, because Nikki proved she could do it, and she's now living at Farm Sanctuary and enjoying her life. For decades, farm animals have been nameless, faceless, absent from people's minds. And when Farm Sanctuary started in 1986, we started giving these animals names and telling their stories and educating people about where they came from. And so each of the animals at Farm Sanctuary reaches citizens who then have the opportunity to learn and hopefully make choices that are more sensible. And people are coming to recognize that they're living, feeling creatures. They're not just inanimate pieces of meat. Farm Sanctuary's network is vast. We have citizens in urban and rural America, business leaders, politicians, celebrities.
I did a PSA for the Farm Sanctuary. I asked if we could actually use a little calf, and I had been reading Thoreau, so I named him Henry. My name is Kim Basinger, and this is Henry. Do you know that farm animals too sick to even stand are still used for human food?
I'm Mary Tyler Moore for Farm Sanctuary. No animal should be subjected to cruelty. including farm animals.
Hi, I'm Joan Jett for Farm Sanctuary. Leave the horrors of factory farming behind. Celebrate compassion and join me at farmsanctuary.org.
Agribusiness has been very influential in Washington, D.C. and in state capitals, and they've actually excluded farm animals from the Federal Animal Welfare Act, and they've excluded farm animals also from basic humane protections in most states. So in the early 2000s, we started working on ballot initiatives to change that. And when we've been able to put these measures in front of voters and give people the chance to decide whether or not these animals should be treated better, invariably they voted to ban these cruel confinement systems. Starting with Hilda's rescue in 1986, we've worked to prevent the marketing and the inhumane transportation and slaughter of downed animals, animals that are too sick even to stand.
Is it normal to leave an animal to suffer without water? No! I'm the executive director of Farm Sanctuary, a national animal protection organization concerned with the mistreatment of farm animals.
The slaughter of downed animals for human food is where the controversy begins.
It is the undercover video that has Hollywood up in arms.
Death, pain, suffering, cruelty. We're not describing war. These are words some use in reference to the stockyards.
Well, the downed animal problem actually starts on the farm, where animals are pushed beyond their biological capabilities.
In 2004, the USDA put in an interim policy to prevent downed cows from being used for human food.
The Department of Agriculture made some changes in policy. That includes a ban on what's called downers.
In 2009, after some additional exposés of the inhumane treatment of downed animals, finally the USDA put in a solid policy to prevent downed cows from being used for food. This no downer policy needs to be expanded, and our No Downers campaign continues. People are recognizing that their food choices are very important and can be very empowering. We can help animals, we can improve our own health, and we can have a much lighter footprint on the planet. Farm Sanctuary is a community of people who care and want to make a difference and want to create a world where farm animals, like all animals, are seen as friends, not food, and are treated with compassion and respect. Magical things happen at Farm Sanctuary shelters in Watkins Glen, New York, and Orland, California, where people get a chance to interact and be touched by animals. But besides that, we're changing public policy. We're changing how people view and treat farm animals. We're changing how people perceive these animals. And once the animals come to Farm Sanctuary, they're ambassadors for other members of their species who have no voice otherwise. Thank you so much for caring, and thank you for continuing to support Farm Sanctuary.